hope I learned something. I hope I learned something. I hope I learned something from the stormy seas, from the brightest days, from the darkest nights, from the sunny days. I hope you learned something. I hope you learned something. I hope you learned something from the stormy seas, from the brightest days, from the darkest nights, from the sunny days. I hope we learned something from the stormy seas, from the brightest days, from the darkest nights, from the sunny days.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome to the daily All Hat No Kettle News Rodeo. I'm your host, Hat. Hello, YouTube. Hello, D-Live. Hello, Trovo. Nice to see you all, as always. Kind of a weird, little bit of a slow news day here. A lot of stuff happened over the weekend, though. Some of it you may know already. A bit of breaking news regarding one of them. That would be the story that came out yesterday regarding the DOJ under Trump. In 2018, asking Apple for records from Trump's lawyer, Don McGahn. I got an update on that story, kind of interesting there. I have a very, very poignant story from the border that I'll read to you also in the afternoon, in the after show there. Up here in the first part, we've got breaking news on a large industrial plant fire in Illinois. Also, some names of Republicans you may be sending money to circa 2022 for a certain thing happening then. And also possible Chinese nuclear accident in the works. We'll get to that all. But first, something a little different today. instead of our normal Babylon Bee opening, we have a story about the Babylon Bee in our opening. This specifically is about the retraction that the Babylon Bee had demanded from the New York Times after the New York Times had referred to the Babylon Bee in a piece as a far-right misinformation site that was using the label of satire to hide from being taken to task for spreading fake news by Facebook and Twitter. Yes, the Times actually did that. The Babylon Bee went after them tooth and nail, and they got the retraction they were looking for. Of course, it didn't all happen at once. The first retraction still had some falsehoods, or at least references to falsehoods in it. So the New York Times had to go back to the drawing board, and so they finally came out with the following. Let me read it to you in full. Oops, that's not what I wanted there. Hang on just a second. That's not what I wanted. Here it is. Here it is. This is the correction published Friday, pardon me, the 10th. That was Thursday by the New York Times. An earlier version of this article referred imprecisely to the Babylon Bee, a right-leaning satirical website, and a controversy regarding the handling of its content by Facebook and the fact-checking site Snopes. While both Facebook and Snopes previously have classified some Babylon Bee articles as misinformation rather than satire, they have dropped those claims, and the Babylon Bee denies that it has trafficked in misinformation. All right, so a big win for the Babylon Bee there, everyone. And little by little, we're holding mainstream media to task for their lies. They are not unassailable. So big props to the Babylon Bee. I'm proud to be a paying subscriber, and I'm glad that we use them every day on the show. This just, again, goes to show that there is hope for the little guy out there. All right, so let's get to it. First, my personal conceit, the market. The Dow had a bit of a rally at the end of the day, but still closed in the down territory, down 0.25%, closing below 3,400 yet again. The S&P 500 saw a marginal gain, while the Nasdaq saw a pretty decent gain, almost up a full 0.75%, now safely above the 14,000 mark. Gold slid yet again, now down to $1,866 per ounce, a real retraction from its highs just a week ago. Crude oil saw a marginal gain, now above $71 per barrel of West Texas Intermediate sweet crude. And Bitcoin had a bit of a rally earlier today and has fallen off some, now just a tick under 40,000 per coin. Moving right along. Okay, as I said, there's an explosion, a massive fire that broke out at an Illinois chemical plant. This plant is at an area known as Rockton, and that is the Chem Tool Incorporated facility. As I understand it, Chem Tool is a lubricants manufacturer, and I have some footage here provided by my technical producer and king of the Lynx Electric Dog that shows this facility completely engulfed in flames. As you can see here, every inch of it is burning. The loading bays are completely taken over. Obviously, the entire manufacturing section is under complete wall of flames and smoke. So this place is a total write-off. Obviously, I don't even know what this person with the hose is doing here. There's no way that's helping anything, but I guess fire department has to justify its budget somehow. But this place is a total loss, and it's going to take a very long time for it to be cleaned up and get back in business. As you can see here, this one building is showing a little bit of resilience from the flames, but that's not going to last long, I'm sure. Here is one fire hose here. Let me back that up a little bit. There's a fire hose here. A little more. You could see it was cooling off. There we go. You can't quite see them, but these are probably fuel tanks or chemical tanks of some kind. And they've got this boom ladder from the fire department cooling those tanks with water to try to keep them from catching from the radiant heat from the flames. But as you see, the structure here is the one that hasn't been completely engulfed yet. Because as you can see, it's surrounded by flames, and it looks like the left front of the structure there has been engaged in flames. So I'm sure it's probably all to the ground by now. So bad news there, and keep an eye out on that. All right, international news. I wanted to lead with this. I normally do international news toward the end of the show, but of course the G7 summit is happening. We all know that our fearless leader, 46 asterisk, will be meeting with the killer, Putin. That's his words, not mine, Wednesday. So we got a lot to look forward to there. I saw a blurb from Fox on my iPad earlier that Asterisk was going to be having a press conference, but I couldn't find any live links to it. But I was scrambling at the end of the day, so I should say end of show prep, so I didn't have a chance to look for it deeply. But perhaps I'll be able to find some clips of it for tomorrow, so we can all hang our heads in shame. I'm sure you've seen many of the clips from this weekend where our great and illustrious head of state did such things as mistake Syria for Libya or Libya for Syria. We're not really sure what he was thinking. It looks like he meant Syria, but he said Libya 3 times in a row. He also corrected Boris Johnson about not remembering to introduce the representative from South Africa literally 15 seconds after Boris Johnson had, in fact, introduced the leader of South Africa. There was also a moment where Biden showed that once again his press conferences are completely scripted by saying the quiet part out loud and exclaiming, "They're going to get mad at me if I don't do this right." So now, yada yada from Associated Press. He has the names of and outlets of the reporters right in front of him, and he knows if he doesn't do it right, they're going to take away his cookies at the end of the night. Also, there was a moment where someone was calling out to him at some kind of an outdoor event. They were under a portico of some type, and a reporter called out to Biden, and he stood there and started to try to answer. And Dr. Jill Biden, of course, as Ben Shapiro puts it, the greatest doctor of all time. It goes Dr. Jill, then Dr. Fauci. Dr. Jill Biden came across, crossed about a good 20, 30 feet of space, and took Joe by the hand and said, "Come on, Joe, let's go, let's go." And of course, again, everybody started laughing. Biden thinks they're laughing with him when obviously, in both instances, they're laughing at him for being a complete fool. And this is the image our country is projecting to the leaders of the free world, folks. Hang on to your hats. It's only 120 days. Only 120 days. So far. And good afternoon to Wheatmouth817, Lizard Bites, and Electric Dog, all of you in the D-Live chat. Hello to you all. So, moving right along. Dog says he hadn't seen any of the clips. Wow. There was also a clip, Dog, where he stammered and hemmed and hawed over a very simple sentence. I can't even begin to recreate it. It was so horrible. He just completely mangled it, lost his train of thought about 8 words into a sentence, and repeated himself several times, and then finished up with a point that I think had something to do with the beginning of the sentence, but I'm not really sure. It was all just really, really scary stuff, really scary stuff. And again, he's meeting with Putin in 2 days. And we've already been told that 46 Asterisk is not going to have a joint press conference with Putin. He said this weekend that it's not about seeing who can basically win a popularity contest for the press, something along those lines. And he also said earlier, before that comment, that he wanted to do a presser in front of the free press, whatever that means. So it's horrific. It's absolutely horrific. And he still hasn't done anything with China yet. He's already bent over backwards for everything we can think of with Russia. He also said this weekend that he would be interested, or it might have been Friday, that he would be interested in doing a prisoner swap with Russia for cyber criminals. And within a very short period of time, the White House had to issue a correction saying, no, that is not the position of the administration. I think that's the third time, at least, he has said something in public that the White House has gone to and corrected, basically saying he doesn't speak for the White House, folks, so don't listen to him. Lizardbite says in the DLF chat, what a disgrace for a president. I couldn't agree more, LB. And again, it's only been 120 days. All right, let's get into some national news here. As we all know, woke politics has become part of the governance rule for this administration. We've heard the word equity so many times it's lost all meaning. And in case you don't remember, equity is not the same as equality. Equality is equal opportunity of outcome, whereas equity is equal opportunity of results. And that is the Marxist philosophy for a society. And the only way to achieve equity is not to raise everyone to the highest level, but to reduce everyone to the lowest common denominator. That's how it works. Can't make everyone millionaires, but you can make everyone dependent on the state. That's the easiest way to do it, and that's what they want to do. We've also seen woke politics invade the military. We saw the Navy just a few months ago announce that they were going to be introducing their version of critical race theory into the naval doctrine. And as I predicted at the time, that was the end of the U.S. Navy, because it would now take a fighting force and turn it into a bunch of balkanized private interest groups. And now we have other examples of the federal government getting into this. We've got the Federal Reserve. I know technically independent, but not really. And according to a source, the Fed's Board of Governors has issued some guidance on avoiding biased terms, their word, for all for employees of the Fed. This supposedly happened back on April 29th. I've got an exclusive here from Fox News. According to the leak to Fox, the Federal Reserve issued the following, quote, bias-free language recognizes diversity and avoids stereotyping, demeaning, or excluding people on the basis of gender, race, ethnic group, religion, age, ability, disability, or sexual orientation. Try to avoid words and phrases that may be considered offensive, pejorative, or prejudiced, whether consciously or unconsciously, as these can distract your audience from the ideas, information you're trying to convey. Now, how you can avoid a word unconsciously, I don't know. Here's a partial list of the things the Fed says its employees are supposed to avoid. Biased terms such as blacklist, grandfathered, and founding fathers. Employees are instructed to use terms like denied, legacy, and founders instead. The Fed also said the terms whitelisted, manpower, man-made, and singular generic pronouns such as he, she, his, and hers should be replaced with more, quote, bias-free alternatives like allowed, artificial, and pronouns such as they, their, and theirs. Now, the Fed's denying that they released this. According to a Fed spokesman, that's what it says here, a Fed spokesman, the Federal Reserve has no language directives for employees. That's their statement. I'm more inclined to believe the whistleblower myself. This, by the way, from Fox News by Houston Keene and Alex Pfeiffer. Now, remember, folks, I've been reporting for some time now on how global banks are seeking to start issuing basically social credit scores on corporations and businesses and determining whether or not they'll get loans. Not just preferential loan treatment, but loans altogether, unless they follow certain woke guidelines, including board diversity and carbon capture or carbon footprint amelioration. This is a thing. This is a thing. Blackwater is all behind it, and we all know. Wait, no, not Blackwater. Wait, is that? What's the name of the huge investment firm? I suddenly forgotten the name. It's Black something. Is it Blackwater? I've suddenly forgotten. Please forgive me. There's so many, because I remember the Blackwater disaster from the Iraq War. I'll let you guys figure that out. Lizardbite says, of course, can't leave out the founding mothers. Nope, can't leave them out at all. All two of them, Abigail Adams and Betsy Ross. Black Rock. Thank you, Doug. Black Rock. I knew I was wrong. I appreciate it, Doug. Once again, my technical producer coming through in the clutch. Okay, some 2022 news, also from Fox by Tyler Olson. I got a list of Republicans who have already rung up primary challengers for their seats come 2022. And there are 9 of the 10 Republicans who voted to impeach President Trump back over the January 6th riot. That particular impeachment proceeding, as you know, Trump has said we need to come out against these folks. In fact, at CPAC back in February, Trump said, and I quote, "Instead of attacking me and, more importantly, the voters of our movement, top establishment Republicans in Washington should be spending their energy in opposing Biden, Pelosi, Schumer, and the Democrats. Get rid of them all," he said of the Republicans who voted to impeach him. So here's a list of those who have already gotten primary challengers, the 9 out of the 10. First, of course, Liz Cheney out of Wyoming. She has she has 8 primary challengers against her right now. One is in the lead so far, and that's State Senator Anthony Bouchard. That's going there right now. Tom Rice from South Carolina. He's got a bunch of primary candidates against him, including former Myrtle Beach Mayor Mark McBride and State Rep William Bailey. Also, a right-leaning influencer named Graham Allen, who told Fox News, "I think that President Trump showed the world you don't have to be a politician to become a politician." We've got more. Representative Jamie Herrera, is it Butler or Butler? I don't know. From Washington. They've got at least 4 candidates challenging them, Jamie. And Adam Kinzinger. This plate sometimes makes it hard to talk. Adam Kinzinger, Illinois. Right now his top challenger is Catalina Lauf, a 27-year-old who was in the Trump administration in the Commerce Department. I have seen interviews with Ms. Lauf, and she's a very well-spoken, very smart young lady. Being 60, I can call someone who's 27 a young lady. So we'll see how she does. So far, she's got a pretty good run started. Also, we've got Dan Newhouse, representative from Washington. He's got at least 3 challengers so far. Anthony Gonzalez, Ohio. So far, he has a very well-financed challenger in former Trump aide Max Miller. We all know Max. And Trump endorsed him quite quickly once he announced his candidacy. Fred Upton from Michigan. So far, Fred's got at least 5 challengers, including 2 sitting office holders, State Rep Steve Carra, and Berrien County Commissioner Ezra Scott. Peter Meyer, also of Michigan. He replaced Justin Amash, by the way, in case you forgot, when Amash became... Amash went independent, didn't he? I don't believe he went Democrat. And Meyer racked up a lot of endorsements during his campaign from Kevin McCarthy, Tom Cotton, and Steve Scalise. But that impeachment vote's hanging around his neck like a millstone. And right now he's got at least 3 people challenging him, including Audra Johnson, known as the MAGA bride, for her pro-Trump wedding dress, and former Sand Lake Village President Tom Norton. Let's see, a couple more here, 2 more. David Valadeo, California. He has run for Congress 3 times, won the first time in 2012, lost in 2018, and ran again in, 4 times, and then lost and ran again and won in 2020. But he now has primary challenging from Chris Matthews, an Army veteran and former Fresno City Council member. And then finally, John Katko, New York. He does not have a primary challenger announced just yet. It seems that Katko, as I'm quoting the article, appeared to get back into the good graces with GOP leadership quickly after his impeachment vote. He was one of the faces of a border trip McCarthy took with a group of House Republicans earlier this year. A gruce of Republicans. Is that a thing? A gruce? I may have made up a term here, folks. A gruce of Republicans. So that is your rundown of the 10 impeachment voters up for re-election in 2022 and what they're looking at right now. And so far, Trump's only come out in favor of one challenger, and the one we have already discussed. All right, moving on to the Democrat Party, although the people we were talking about are not all that far removed from it. Ilhan Omar, of course, made history yet again for comparing the United States and Israel to Hamas and Hezbollah, two sovereign democratic states, a constitutional republic in the U.S.'s case, of course, being compared to internationally designated terrorist organizations. No one's saying neither country has never made a mistake or done something wrong, but there's a difference between the two that needs to be drawn. Omar was criticized by 12 House Democrats who said that her remarks were completely outside beyond the pale. She issued a quote-unquote clarification just a few days ago and said that her remarks needed to be clarified while at the same time explaining that by criticizing her, you are an Islamophobe who is tone policing a woman of color. And of course, you may or may not know the term tone policing is a term the left uses when you're mad at them for doing something wrong or flat out stupid, and they don't like the tone of your voice. You may be completely right, but they try to distract from your being right by making it seem like you're being too mean, and therefore your point is no longer valid. That is tone policing, and those are the exact words that were used over the weekend regarding the 12 Democrats who went out against Omar. Nancy Pelosi, of course, has backed Omar completely, saying that since Omar issued that quote-unquote clarification, all is well with the world. There's no trouble in the Democrat Party whatsoever, and we're one united front and very happy to be a part of each other's lives, which is, of course, a complete and utter lie. The Democrats in the House are falling apart. The Senate is already pretty much out of the hands of Chuck Schumer. But who are we to judge? Who are we to judge? But the interesting part of this story is not what I just described, but the Republicans' reaction. This is from the Daily Wire, by the way, by Emily Zanotti. And it turns out that Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy is pushing forward a, quote, privileged resolution to strip Omar of her position on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, something that should have been done years ago. As we all know, Omar is basically the poster child for how to make an anti-Semitic comment and then pretend you didn't do that. She's done it a number of times since she's taken office, not including on the campaign trail itself. But she is in a very heavy Somali district in Minneapolis, so there's no way she's ever going to get voted out of office. It's just not going to happen. She's there for life. But the Democrats may or may not fully stick behind Omar on this one. We'll have to see. Now, you remember, not too long ago, the Democrats voted to strip Marjorie Taylor Greene of all of her committee assignments for things she said before she was elected, things that she repudiated when she was running for office. But the Democrats decided they didn't like her, and so they stripped her of every committee assignment. Meanwhile, they've been sticking up for Omar almost continuously until just this past week. So there's a chance, I'm not saying a good chance, but a chance that Omar may actually lose that seat on the Foreign Affairs Committee. Now, a privilege resolution is not something I've heard of before. A privilege resolution is one that steps in front of all other business. I don't know how you acquire that label. I don't know the machinations that go into doing that, but Minority Leader McCarthy has accomplished that. So this vote is going to go in front of all other house business. By the way, welcome Show Poodles to the YouTube chat. Forgive me for not noticing your help earlier. Yes, you're correct as BlackRock. Michael Scriven says in the YouTube chat, they don't like people getting uppity. That's a phrase you don't hear often, but that is definitely correct. Uppity to be sure. Electric Dog puts in the dialogue chat, Somali district designed by the balkanizing Dumbocrats. I like that, Dumbocrats. But yes, that district was created specifically to create a Somali block of vote. You're correct. And thank you, Justifiable Freedom, for mentioning that today is, in fact, Donald J. Trump's birthday. 45's, I think, 74 today? I think he's 74, somewhere in there. But yes, happy birthday, DJT. And I did not know this until just now, Dolly Madison's birthday is also today. Someone else who could be considered a founding mother, using Lizard Bite's term. But so we will we'll keep an eye on Omar's continuing problems in the House. Sooner or later, Pelosi's going to have to break from her. I don't know when, I don't know how, but there's going to become a time where Pelosi realizes that she can't let the progressive bloc run the House anymore, because you'll notice they haven't gotten anything of any import through the Senate yet. The only big bill that's gotten through the Senate that passed out of the House was the American Rescue or whatever Act, pardon me, that $2 trillion boondoggle that sent more money overseas than it did into the pockets of Americans. But who are we to judge? In fact, I just found out today that it seems that the Senate parliamentarian ruled on the 7th of this month that, in fact, the Democrats don't get another bite at the reconciliation apple, that they only get the one. Now, I haven't gotten a confirmation of that yet. I heard Larry Kudlow mention it on a previous broadcast of his I was watching as I was putting the show together, broadcast from last week. And I think I also saw something in print on that, but I haven't actually confirmed it. Oh, actually, Dolly Madison's birthday was a couple weeks ago. Oh, okay. All right. Thank you, JF. Fake news, JF. Fake news. Show Poodles in the YouTube chat. You're simply the best, better than all the rest. Happy birthday, PDJT. Very nice. Very nice, Show Poodles. I won't sing today. Oh, 75. 75. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I figured I was off, but not by much, at least. Not by much. So getting to international news, we're going to have a slightly shorter YouTube block today, as you can see. As I said, bit of a light news day today, except for the stuff I described from G7. But Picasso Knows and I have been proud members of the Hilton Honors Program for years and years and years. Now, I'm a Hyatt guy by profession, if you will, because my first big job out of college was being the director of the audiovisual department at the Hyatt Regency San Antonio on the Riverwalk. I also ran the AV departments at the Hilton and the Marriott in that same area there around the convention center. But my longest tenure was at the Hyatt, and that was one of our premier properties. I'm not ashamed to say. But and I had a better show record than NASA, actually. NASA had 2 accidents while I was there, and I only had 1. Although it was a pretty embarrassing show, I must admit. I really screwed it up. I lost a lot of face on that one. Got it back, but it was a pretty rough time. But anyway, we've been Hilton Honors because Hyatts are just so darn expensive. They're all high-end, and we don't have that kind of money. In fact, if ever I did stay in a Hyatt, it was a comp room because I worked at the Hyatt. But so Hilton has been our place of choice. Hampton hotels are, of course, part of the Hilton chain. And I've always loved the Hamptons. They're very comfortable. The rooms are nice. And the amenities are usually right there with what we need. They have the breakfast ready in the mornings. A lot of good stuff. But we're going to be canceling our Hilton Honors membership as of this week because of this story. Got an article here from the Daily Wire again by Ben Zeisloft. And And I'll just read you the headline and let you bury your head in the sand. Hilton building hotel on top of demolished Uyghur mosque in China. So let me give you a little backstory first. Quoting the article, according to satellite data from the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, thousands of mosques are disappearing as the Chinese Communist Party intensifies its ethnic cleansing of the Uyghur people in the country's Xinjiang region. However, Hilton, an American hospitality firm, is constructing a hotel upon one of the mosque's ruins. As reported by The Telegraph, quote, the site where a mosque once stood in the heart of Hotan in China's Xinjiang region is now under construction to become a commercial tower block that will house a Hampton by Hilton hotel. The mosque, demolished in 2018 based on satellite images analyzed for The Telegraph by the ASPI, is just one of many to disappear across the region as China erases their cultural and religious heritage as part of its forced assimilation of Uyghurs and other ethnic Muslim minorities. So that's a thing. That's a thing. Very disappointing. Again, I've always been very happy with the stays we've had at Hilton Properties, but that's going to have to come to an end. I guess we'll have to take a look at Holiday Express again. Holiday Inn Express, excuse me. Those have usually been pretty good. And thank you so much, JF. Thank you. All right, also, as you guys know, the international bloc is often dominated by China, and today's no exception. This Hilton story is emblematic of China's rapid recovery from the COVID pandemic in that country. We've been hearing tales of China surging back, putting people back to work very quickly, even though outbreaks continue across the country. It seems that perhaps their workers have reached herd immunity for all we know. Maybe I'll get yanked from YouTube for saying that. I don't know. But another article by Ben Zeisloft from the Daily Wire. This quotes a report from the Organization for Economic Cooperation, the OECD. And it says here that China's economy grew 18.3% between the first quarter of 2020 and the first quarter of 2021. And that is over twice the growth by the next two countries, Turkey at 6.7% and India by 1.9%. In the first quarter of 2021, continuing, the United States year-over-year GDP growth reached 0.4%. Meanwhile, many European nations continue their sluggish recoveries. The UK, Germany, and Italy had year-over-year growth of negative 6.1%, negative 3.1%, and negative 0.8%, respectively. So, overall, the global economy has expanded by 3.4% since the beginning of 2020. Now, of course, we've covered some interesting news regarding China and the COVID virus, but things I can't talk about during the YouTube block. But you will remember, I will reference obliquely the report from some former CDC officials that put the odds of the virus being naturally occurring at a certain number that I will try to remember to give you in the after show. But of course, I cannot give you these numbers on YouTube because they'll kill the channel and you'll never see me again. And show poodles, in case you missed it, please look at the pinned comment, because in a moment I will be leaving YouTube and doing the rest of the show on DLive and Trovo, and we would very much love it if you could join us for the rest as well. Not saying to never use YouTube, but if you want the full show, please follow the link or get the apps for your respective apps for whichever mobile devices you have. I highly recommend it. Oh, and hello, Twin Crier. I missed you coming in. Please forgive me. Okay, now I teased this in the opening show, and this will be our last piece for the YouTube block. Um, as you know, China has a lot of coal power plants, a lot of them, and they're building more every day. But they do have some nuclear power here and there. They're run mainly by foreign companies, including a company named Framatome, or Framatome, I'm not sure, which is a French nuclear company. And it seems there is a, quote, performance issue with the Taishan nuclear power plant in the Guangdong province in China. A province that has about 126 million people. It's about 84 miles west of Hong Kong, as I understand it. Here's a picture of the plant from a fisheye lens, as you can see. It has two reactors. And according to what we're hearing from Framatome, there's a leak coming out of the plant. Possibly a overbuildup of noble gases from the reactors. I'm not really up to date on the kind of reactors that France has in place here in the Guangdong province, but I do know that certain types of reactors do have a problem with the buildup of noble gases, like argon especially. And as you may know, a noble gas has that name on the periodic table because it does not combine with any other element, thereby noble standing apart. So you cannot, for instance, have a helium chloride atom or an argon, a sodium argon molecule. It's not possible. And so these can get radioactive, though. And they will leak into the atmosphere. That's what happened with 3 Mile Island, was a leak of radioactive gas. It's a very small leak, but we're supposed to think it was the end of the world. However, the Guangdong plant, the Taishan plant, is getting to the point where they're changing the rules of what's allowable around the plant in order to keep from having to shut it down. Let me read you a little from this article here. This is from American Military News, by the way. A letter sent from the French company to the Department of Energy and obtained by CNN warned Chinese safety regulators were reportedly raising the acceptable limits for radiation detection in the area surrounding the power plant in an effort to avoid having to shut the plant down. The letter reportedly stated, quote, due to the increasing number of failures, close quote, rather than maintaining the advised radiation detection levels, China's safety authority, the National Nuclear Safety Administration, or NNSA, revised the detection limit to more than double that of the gases being released from the plant, quote, which in turn increases off-site risk to the public and on-site workers, close quote. Now, Framatome said in a public press release that the plant is operating within safety parameters, but it is reporting, again, quote, a performance issue. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Michael's. I started to say your name, Michael. I'm sorry, I can't read it out loud. I screwed up. But I see what you said there, and let me put it this way: we have someone who knows that in a particular part of the public health system of New York State, that the vaccination rate for one of these facilities is low. Very, very low. I'm not going to say what facility, and certainly not going to read the name aloud beyond what I just screwed up, but it is a number that would frighten you. But again, not saying where they're getting this number from, but it is an area that deals with the public. And it is it's an interesting number, but I'll leave it at that. And so thank you, Michael. Thank you. All right, that's it for the YouTube block, all. So I will, of course, be back here tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern for another rip-roaring news rodeo. Normally lasts an hour on YouTube, but again, today was kind of a light news day. And if you so care, every Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern, I begin my daily playthrough of a PC game. We're currently playing The Witcher 3. I'm about a third of the way into, maybe a halfway now, into Blood and Wine, the second of the DLCs. We finished the main story and the Hearts of Stone DLC already. After we finish Witcher 3, which I believe will be maybe in about a week, around there, then we will be moving on to Far Cry 5. And I also have Far Cry 3, which I probably won't play, but I also have Far Cry, let me get the name of it again. I keep forgetting. New Dawn. Far Cry New Dawn, which I understand is a standalone from Far Cry 5. And I will be playing that as well. But first, again, we'll be finishing up Witcher 3. Now, on the weekends, I start at 9 a.m. Eastern, and then sometimes I play after lunch, and those streams start at 2:30 Eastern. I'm also considering expanding the Monday through Friday playthrough to go from 8 a.m. to 11:30 Eastern, as opposed to 8 to 11. I'm thinking I might start doing another half hour. Lizardbite says in the chat that he will be streaming himself playing Caterpillar. I do not know that game. I do not know that game at all. But I highly suggest everyone to check out Lizardbite's channel. He is in the D-Live chat right now. He is also popular in the Trovo chat. His channels are on YouTube and D-Live, and I believe Trovo. I haven't been to his Trovo channel. He also has other channels. Please check him out. That's Lizardbytes, B-Y-T-E-S. LB, if you could, put your links in the D-Live chat and in the Trovo chat, if you could manage. And that would be great. I'd really appreciate it. Always happy to spread the word. Pac-Man, Lizardbite says. Maybe Pac-Man. Oh, Caterpillar. That's the... you sure you don't mean Centipede? Actually, yeah, you meant Centipede. Actually, that's what's going on there. Centipede. All right, you threw me there. Caterpillar, I thought was a new, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of the name now. The most popular video game in the world. Shoot. Minecraft. I thought it was kind of a Minecraft thing. My bad. All right, but anyway, YouTube, I shall see you later. And again, welcome, Showpoodle. Really nice to have you. Thank you, Showpoodle. It's very kind of you. Poodles. Sorry, Poodles. I was leaving out the S. That is really kind of you. I appreciate it. And God bless you. I'm 60, by the way. I still have Twitch reflexes, but I get confused on the game mechanics sometimes, and I get lost really, really easily. So putting me in a maze or in a cave... Lots of fun, and I'm being very sarcastic. But be well. All right, folks, let us continue on then to the after show. Let me get the right window open here, and the right window open here. There we go. And of course, as always, welcome Gab TV. So nice to see you. We'll get this done and up, so you Gab TV people can spend the evening wondering how it is I can put together a show while I constantly mispronounce names and words, tripping over the plate in the top of my mouth. Moving right along then, as I teased at the opening of the show, we found out yesterday through several outlets, including the New York Times, that the Trump Department of Justice, when Sessions was still AG, sought subpoenas against former White House counsel Don McGahn. And we've also found out that those record requests were kept secret from McGahn for a very long time. Normally, you have to go to the judge who allows the subpoena request to go forward to suppress notification of the individual so named in the subpoena, and it was withheld from McGahn for a long time, I believe up until very recently, which means that a judge had to approve the withholding request several times. Now, we don't know why this was happening. Let me read a little bit of the article here. This is from the Washington Examiner by Jerry Dunleavy. And the report stated that Apple received the subpoena on February 23, 2018, after it was, quote, issued by a grand jury in the Eastern District of Virginia, close quote. Also, it is not clear what the FBI agents were scrutinizing, nor whether McGahn was their specific focus. Apple told McGahn, quoting, that it complied with the subpoena in a timely fashion, but declined to tell McGahn what it provided to the government. And the evidence suggests that prosecutors went to court several times to prevent Apple from notifying the McGahns earlier. The outlet added, the subpoena for McGahn's records did not come from Robert Mueller's team, and there's no indication at this time whether the pursuit of McGahn's records was politically motivated or what possible case investigators were pursuing. Now, here's the interesting part of the story. That's the meat. Here's the potatoes. According to Fox News, Jeff Sessions and his deputy, Rod Rosenstein, did not know about the subpoena, according to a source familiar with the matter. In fact, let me be more specific. A source close to Sessions and Rosenstein said one former senior DOJ official, quote, you would absolutely want the top cover. The idea that you would do something that sensitive without alerting senior leadership is suicide. Also, a little more tidbit on this. The Times report noted that Apple received the McGahn subpoena weeks after another subpoena related to an investigation of leaked information related to the Russia probe. That subpoena, reported by the Times last week, covered information including records belonging to California Democratic Representatives Adam Schiff and Eric Swalwell, both fierce critics of Trump while he was in office. Neither Sessions nor Rosenstein had been aware of this either at the time. A source close to both said Sessions had recused himself from all matters related to Russia. Of course, a bone of contention with me ever since it happened, but who am I to judge? So that's going on. Lots to pay attention to there. And we still don't know what it was about. I can't wait to find when that other shoe drops. Can't wait to cover that part of the story. Now, this was going to be my lead story before this other item came up today. And this is something that I might have covered in the beginning of the show, but I realized that I wanted to talk about it in much more detailed terms than YouTube would allow. And again, in case you can't tell, this is the Law and Order block. And pretty simple. The reporter who broke the story on the Clinton Lynch tarmac meeting was found dead. The Clinton body count continues, folks. 45-year-old reporter, respected by all his colleagues, had moved from his job in Arizona to be a news anchor for ABC in Birmingham, Alabama. He played football in college in Birmingham, well loved in the community as any Bama veteran would be. And according to this article from the Washington Examiner, the body of 45-year-old Christopher Sine was discovered by Hoover police and fire personnel at around 8 a.m. Saturday morning, following a 911 call about a person down in a residence. Lieutenant Keith Cheskleba, thanks Keith. Lieutenant Keith Cheskleba, God, what a name, said Sine's death is being investigated as a suicide. Another Clinton suicide. Now, you may or may, hopefully you'll remember that Christopher Sign broke the story of former President Clinton walking up to and then on board of Loretta Lynch's private jet at Sky Harbor Airport in Phoenix, Arizona. Sky Harbor being a business airport, kind of a feeder airport. And Lynch had landed there for a meeting, and Clinton was there for some campaign events. And he kind of basically invited himself onto the jet and had a half-hour, 45-minute conversation with Lynch. Coincidentally, at exactly the same time, Lynch was investigating Clinton's wife, Hillary, in her role in releasing, inadvertently or not, tons of secret communications between her and other people in the State Department, which she was leading at the time, which she had been leading, I should say, and had been maintaining a secret server in order to obviously get around government watchdogs and Freedom of Information Act requests. Because remember, all government employee emails are considered public record, but Clinton's private email server, of course, went around that. And then, of course, we know that her lawyers were allowed to delete all of the emails they said were not pertinent to the FBI's investigation of the servers, somehow allowing the fox to decide which hens should live and which hens shouldn't. But who am I to judge? Clinton, of course, was not charged with any crime. There was the famous FBI Director James Comey's July 5th press conference, where he listed in great detail all of the crimes that Clinton had committed, and then said that he would not recommend prosecuting her because even though she was grossly negligent, my words, actually, in the way she took care of those records and those secret communications, she did not basically have malice in her heart when she did it. She did not mean to do something wrong. Therefore, she should not be prosecuted. And of course, the big hue and cry came up from that because, first of all, the director of the FBI does not determine who is or is not prosecuted. They investigate a case and they bring charges. It's up to the it's up to the Attorney General's office to decide whether or not to prosecute and how to proceed from there. And also that Comey made up the law by determining that mens rea was not having mens rea was absolution for those crimes, when in fact, when you read the statutes, mens rea has absolutely nothing to do with those crimes. You don't have to know you're committing a crime in order to be tried and convicted of those public records violations and release of secret information. You don't have to have mens rea in order to be tried for those crimes. Comey made that up on the spot. The Democrats ran with it, and obviously Hillary Clinton will never see the inside of a courtroom, much less a jail cell. You may remember also that Judicial Watch has been fighting tooth and nail to get Hillary Clinton in front of a video camera for a live deposition. The last I saw, the judge in the case ruled that she does not have to sit for a live deposition, that she can answer questions in written form. That's already happened once, and she danced around the questions quite expertly, as someone with $1,000 an hour lawyers is able to do. So nothing's going to happen from that. But yes, Christopher Sign, 45 years old, found dead. I'm sure there's no relation whatsoever to the Clintons at all. Unfortunately, I have another very sad death to report. Two deaths, actually, from the weekend regarding people being struck by vehicles. The first was an off-duty Seattle police officer, a woman, officer, I should say, by the name of Lexi Harris, 5-year veteran. Picture of her here. Officer Harris had stopped as an off-duty officer to assist a multiple car collision on I-5, the major interstate going through Seattle. It was a 3-vehicle accident. It was blocking all but the HOV lane, the high occupancy vehicle lane. And she stopped to assist, and as she got out of her car, she was struck by another car and killed there on the spot. Here's the thing. That's a tragedy. What happened next is pure insanity. So Officer Harris is either dead or dying. The person who struck her stopped and stayed and was being interviewed by police. They are cooperating. Meanwhile, one of the people involved in the accident jumped in Harris's car, Officer Harris's car, and drove away. I'm not making this up. They stole a dead woman's car, a police officer's car, ditched it sometime later. It's been impounded and it's being searched for evidence. Now, obviously, they have the registration of the vehicles involved in that accident. They're all still there when this maniac drove away. So they can at least know who owns the car that was there. And I'm sure there's going to be a fingerprint or some DNA in Officer Harris's car that will lead us to the right person. But who does that? Who does that? Now the thing is, what can they be charged with? I guess grand theft auto and fleeing the scene of an accident. I don't know if there's some law for stealing a dead person's property to tack on top of that. I don't know. Joe Poodle continues in the... I never turned off YouTube. Oh, God. Jeez. I never turned off YouTube. Oh, boy. Well, you can kiss this channel goodbye, folks. Kiss this channel goodbye. Show Poodles, I didn't know I was still on YouTube until I looked at your chat and I realized what had happened. I was supposed to turn YouTube off. Let me read Show Poodle's final chat there, and then I will go from YouTube. They write, the New York Times is where the FBI goes to get out in front of a story. They think Comey leaking info to their PR firm, the New York Times. Can't wait to see what they're trying to get ahead of with the McGahn story. And they offer, Show Poodles also reacts quite significantly to the story I just read. Yes, oops indeed, Show Poodles, oops indeed. You may have saved this channel from being struck for good, so thank you for continuing to contribute to the chat. But if you don't see me up tomorrow, you may know why. All right. Now, goodbye.